People often say they were active in their younger years. Activity levels can decrease in later years as lives are filled with work, marriage, and kids. Kim Ruliffson coordinates healthy living programs for working adults. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you're involved in an initiative called the Work Well mission. What is the mission of that?
The Work Well program is for staff and faculty here at UND, and the purpose is to provide them with information, resources, and programs that help them live healthier lives.
Okay, and what is your role with this?
My role is to keep the pieces together, so to speak, to provide services, to provide information. So, for instance, health screenings we do with the College of Nursing, flu shots with the Student Health Services, and a variety of other programs all during the year.
Okay, and wellness is a pretty big push now, not only at universities, but in workplaces all over. So this sort of thing is emerging in a lot of different places. Why do you think people need this at work?
Well, I think there's a lot of people more at work than they have been in the past, and many times the mom would stay at home, and so now there's a lot of families that have two people working, and sometimes two people working two jobs. So we're seeing a focus now that people need to have a little bit more at work because they're not able to fit it in when they get home. And besides that, so many people are sitting at desk jobs, and so that sitting down for 8 hours is just not natural for our body. So we need to be able to move and do this at work.
Well, it's funny because when I was looking at the information about this interview we're doing, I was starting to feel guilty because I'm sitting at my computer reading. I do that most of the time. And it's said that you can't motivate people, you can only help them motivate themselves. How do you try to create an environment where people get motivated to get up and move around at work? Sure.
There's a couple ways that we've been trying. It's definitely a focus of us to try to create a culture of wellness so that it's approved or appreciated at work. We're trying to work with supervisors to help them understand that it is important for their employees to do exercise at work. And we have programs that are starting more at departments that have really helped, like a stretching program with the College of the Nutrition Lab, and a walking program with the College of Nursing. So it just has been starting to get more ingrained in the culture that it's okay and appropriate.
Okay, and that was something else that I thought about too. It's like in the, I guess, can I say the old days now, the smoke break, where the 15 minutes people would go out and smoke. Well, now it's 15 minutes they go out and stretch.
Right.
There is a stigma associated with that where somebody else is working. Why do they get 15 minutes to go stretch? How do you get past that in this culture of work?
Right, and it's a tough stigma to get past, but I think more and more people are seeing the benefit. For people to live longer lives, they're going to need to be able to move and have the flexibility. And I think as they see their coworkers feeling refreshed, coming back and able to think more clearly, I think they see, well, okay, it's 10 minutes and it's just okay. It's starting to be okay now. Okay. So I think it's just a trend changing.
Well, now, how are office exercises different from going to the gym?
Sure. Well, most of us, including myself, I don't like to sweat at work, and come back. So exercises at work, they tend to be quicker and shortened to the point where you can get just a little bit of movement rather than, a whole workout where you're sweating and really doing a lot of cardio.
Okay. What do you recommend when someone maybe it's the excuse, but they say, well, I can't work out at home because I've got this and this and this after work, but at work I'm busy too.
Right. I hear that a lot, actually. It's really about trying to figure out what works best for you, and there's no one easy answer. For someone that's really busy when they get home, trying to figure out maybe 10 minutes where they could do a quick walk at work. Most of the time, you can take 10 minutes at work and it's okay. If you're walking to the bathroom or going to the drinking fountain, those are just quick, easy ways to get it in and feel it's justified. Other people may find it easier to find an accountability partner, someone that says, I'm going to show up at your desk at 10 o'clock and we're going to go for a walk. And so that way helps someone say, okay, I guess I have to do this.
Okay.
So a couple techniques.
And we talked a little bit about the stigma, and you talked about getting supervisors on board. First off, how do you do that?
You have to kind of preach that it's important, and I think it's really I'm starting to see a lot more faculty and administrators that are actually very active themselves, so they already see the value. So for me to talk to them, it's a no-brainer. They just already support it. It's the ones that maybe don't see it as their own benefit, see it as something to do outside of work that's a little more challenging.
Okay. And you yourself, do some of these activities at work. What kind of a change have you found personally when you started doing these sorts of things at work?
Right. Well, one thing that I found, and I think we talked about this earlier, that it's hard to remember to take a break. And so I put this computer program on that gives me a reminder every hour. That really has helped me, one, fix my posture, because you notice, especially if you're at a desk, you start leaning down, your back slouches, so that actually mandated pop-up comes on, I have to turn that off.
Okay.
So my posture's been better. Eye strain, you just take a look away. I think for me and for many people, just that break from your momentum of work to come back, you come refreshed, like, oh, I've got to reprioritize, I'm not getting what I should get done.
So it doesn't take too much just to break out of that routine and get a little bit of exercise, even if it's not strenuous.
Right, correct,
All right.
yeah.
Well, Kim, thanks so much for coming on, and good luck with your initiative.
Thank you so much.
All right. Coming up, track and field throwing events require momentum, precision, and heart. We'll meet one athlete who has all three. Also, cowboys are known for horseback riding and gun shooting. We'll see a competition where these skills are combined in a cowboy-mounted shooting contest.
Studio One closed captioning is underwritten in part by Options, your disability information source.
What does cancer look like? What about diabetes, heart disease? Medical laboratory professionals are a vital link in the treatment of disease and maintenance of health. They investigate clues found in the body that will direct patient care. The University of North Dakota's laboratory science programs are some of the most innovative, far-reaching, fully accredited programs in the nation. The UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences can help you become one of the few who see beneath the surface.
It's not the size of the woman in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the woman.
This is a place where innovation abounds, a place where dreams come true, a place where creativity is a way of life, a place that fires our soul. Join us for the North Dakota Spirit Campaign. Together, we will shape the future of UND and North Dakota.
Romantic comedies tend to be made from the same basic formula. The couple meets, falls in love, overcomes an obstacle, and then comes the proposal. In the new film, The 5-Year Engagement, audiences see what happens after he puts a ring on it. The film follows Tom and Violet as their engagement continues on with no end in sight. They realize what marriage will bring as they are forced to make sacrifices in order to support their partner. Eventually, what should have been a memorable day turns into just another thing to cross off their to-do list.
I feel like what the movie has really captured is that tug of war between two people and the compromising and the constant discussion and the arguments that arise and all the wonderful things that can happen to you when you're in love with someone.
The production and directing team also created Forgetting Sarah Marshall. They came up with the idea for The 5-Year Engagement when they were wrapping up 4 years ago. Jason Segel, who wrote and stars in the film, wanted the script to reflect a real-life confident relationship. The question surrounding the film is whether a relationship is right, even if it's not perfect. The film is rated R and hits theaters April 27th. Now it's time to look at the events happening in your area. are some parts of history that we cling to. We found a woman who honed skills best suited for the Wild West.
You could call Laura Pickup a cowgirl.
Yes. Born and raised.
Laura has been riding horses her entire life. Recently, she found a new sport to try from a horse's back.
I read about it a few years ago and had wanted to try something competitive again.
But in this competitive sport, skittish horses aren't allowed.
I always talk with the local police so they know what's going on, so people aren't alarmed if somebody calls in and says they hear gunfire.
The chilling sound of gunfire is frightening, but it's all part of the game. Laura is a competitive cowboy mounted shooter.
We're actually shooting guns off horseback. I mean, that's something I think a lot of people think you just see in the movies.
Laura's no movie star, but she's certainly fun to watch. Shooting two .45 single-action revolvers, she attempts to blast her way to the fastest time.
It's a big adrenaline rush, and that's the fun of it. It's so exciting. Well, I think a lot of spectators worry about, is it safe to even be watching because they're shooting guns off of horses, but we use that black powder blank.
The blanks ensure that those in the stands can rest easy, but as a competitor, Laura says every run is unpredictable.
Anything can happen. I mean, just when you think you have a great run going, you can slip and fall.
And as any cowgirl knows,
It's never over until that last shot is fired.
racing around barrels, weapons in hand, this cowgirl loves the thrill of the game. With photographer Matt Petroviak, this is Katie Mullally reporting for Studio One.
Cowboy mounted shooting is the fastest growing equine sport in the nation. Laura and her 12-year-old niece travel nationwide to compete in mounted shooting events. Coming up, the air may be warm, but the water is dangerously cold. Find out precautions needed when on lakes or rivers this spring. That story plus news, sports, and weather in the next half hour of Studio One.
Closed captioning for Studio One is underwritten in part by NDAD, helping others to help themselves.
If this tennis ball represents today's environmental challenges and these puppies are the EERC, then tackling those challenges is just another workday. At the EERC, we're improving air, water, and soil quality, developing renewable fuels, cleaner power plants, and discovering new ways to use our natural resources. And just like those puppies, we'll never tire of the pursuit. EERC, putting research into practice.
Help others live to their full potential. Improve clients' mental and physical well-being. Excel in one of the top healthcare careers of the future. Occupational therapy students at the University of North Dakota experience high-quality education in small classes.
You have to come to 45 degrees, even in a normal motion pattern.
Your healthcare career begins at the University of North Dakota.
This is a place where innovation abounds, a place where dreams come true, a place where creativity is a way of life, a place that fires our soul. Join us for the North Dakota Spirit Campaign. Together, we will shape the future of UND and North Dakota.
Your future depends on this moment. Take the path that leads to your future.
From the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks, this is Studio One.
Welcome back to Studio One.
Thanks for joining us today. Well, it's no surprise when a college student finishes college is looking for a job, they end up going home and staying with parents for a while.
Right, cut back on some of those costs.
That's right. Well, new data shows it's not just adult kids living with their parents, but also grandparents moving back in as well. And so there's 3 generations in a household. So we went out on the street, asked people, Would you be able to live in a household like that? Their answers are coming up. Also in the next 30 minutes on Studio One, Americans do not walk the walk, and it's a growing problem. Find out how a lack of pedestrian life affects health.
And when watching a performance, the usual etiquette is to turn your cell phone to vibrate. We'll go to a play where interaction with technology is encouraged.
Also, people everywhere altering their lifestyles to make them more green. We'll meet a woman who takes this trend and applies it to spring planting. But first, here's today's news with Stephanie Shire.
Thanks, Monty and Katie. As November approaches, the race for the White House is narrowing down. Newt Gingrich announced he will officially end his bid for the Republican nomination this Tuesday. Gingrich is also expected to express his support for fellow GOP candidate Mitt Romney. The announcement follows Romney's sweeping of 5 primary states. Sources say Gingrich is currently trying to determine how he will be able to help Romney secure the presidential seat next year. A year after the tragedy struck the coast of Japan, 16-year-old Misaki Murakami is getting back a piece of the past he never thought he would see again. A technician for a radar station on a remote coast in Alaska found a soccer ball washed up from the tsunami wreckage. His wife was able to make out some Japanese characters on the ball and later determine the school where it was from. The ball had been signed by Murakami's classmates before he moved in the 3rd grade. It had become a much treasured keepsake. A number of objects have washed up on the shore, but the Coast Guard says this is the first reported case of anything being identifiable enough to return to its owner. The ball is expected to make the 3,000-mile journey back home very soon. It is not always easy to know the driving factor behind buying a new car. However, prices continue to be important for the average chauffeur. The average car owner changes cars every 6 years. New reports show that it could take years or even decades before buying fuel-efficient cars pays off. Gas would have to be $8 a gallon before many of the cars could show savings. Auto dealers say it relies on the buyer's lifestyle.
A lot of it depends on, in that instance, how long you plan on keeping the car, kind of miles that you drive. It sounds like the price of gas is going to keep going up. So if I can get a vehicle that's, say, 39 miles a gallon, you do the math and it doesn't take long for it to pay off.
University of Michigan's Transportation Research Institute recorded record high sales for fuel-efficient cars in March. The gas price itself is also a deciding ingredient. There may be a new feel to your steering wheel. Researchers at AT&T Labs have devised an enhanced steering wheel that vibrates, alerting drivers to oncoming turns when using their GPS. A GPS may guide you to your destination, but your brain has to process the information while driving. Inevitably, it can lead to sensory overload. This prototype steering wheel contains 20 small motors around the perimeter of the wheel. When a turn is coming, the driver feels a sweeping motion of vibration in the right direction. The key behind this new technology is to help people arrive at their destination safely without forcing them to think more about driving. What used to be the primary source of transportation has become a last resort for most Americans. One foot in front of the other is one way for Americans to get the exercise that we need.
Of all the industrialized nations in the world, Americans walk the least. A study in the issue of medicine and science and sports and exercise says that 34% of American adults are obese and average just over 5,000 steps a day. In Australia, the obesity rate is at 16%, where they average almost 10,000 steps per day. Experts say that this simple habit can do more than just get us place to place.
It also alleviates the symptoms of depression, and then as well as it reduces your risk of cardiovascular disease, heart disease, diabetes.
There are many that embrace walking and make it a habit for their everyday life.
It was to lose weight, but as you can tell, that probably didn't all happen. So now we're going just for the healthy.
These simple daily tasks can have huge health benefits as well.
And it does. All of my numbers are pretty good when I go in and get my cholesterol and everything taken, so it does help.
In our technological advanced society, segways, moving sidewalks, and motorized vehicles have made Americans think walking is a chore. We could be missing out on a fundamental step.
It's an easy way to get those basic benefits out of it and just to get them moving.
By putting our right foot forward, Americans can be on the path to a healthy and happier country. This is Allie Strand reporting for Studio One.
The health community typically urges people to take at least 10,000 steps a day to maintain good health. This is equal to about 5 miles of walking. And that's the news for now. Monty and Katie.
Thanks a lot, Stephanie. Well, especially now in the springtime, you just feel like you need to get outside.
You want to get outdoors and enjoy the sun.
Start walking around more.
Well, speaking of good weather, let's go to Kellen Peters with the weather news.
Thanks, Monty and Katie. If you're looking for good weather, earlier this week, the northeastern part of the United States was not the case. Taking a look at some footage, you can see that this is Lake Erie, and a nor'easter swept through the area and produced a lot of rain, waves coming off the coast, and even snow in parts of Pennsylvania. And snow in the month of April, it's kind of weird to think about. The good news is, however, is the temperatures are expected to spike up.